program is really about allowing us to collaborate with contemporary artists to really experiment and engage with one of the world's most iconic urban places.
For us, it's our final program in our spring program series, which has been looking at how the city affects our mind, body, and well-being. And that's part of a larger initiative called Elsewhere, looking at escape in the urban realm.
So the inspiration for this program is really just, thinking about the day-to-day experience of living in cities. And for those of you that spend a lot of time on the train or you begin to think about what you tune out and what you are aware of. And I was really interested in that condition of sort of walking through spaces and picking up on certain things and not picking up on other things, and thinking that those things that I'm not picking up on affect me also. The idea was to start with a film that was a kind of analog, that was in a sense would replicate a kind of sensory experience of a place, and to kind of end with a film that was a clear-sighted analysis of how that can play out in a larger realm, and how sort of just the basic, how we react to spaces and what we feel when we're in a place can be sensitively understood and then applied to design, and then applied to the scale of cities.
Struck, especially in the second and third films, there was a sort of temporal dimension to them. Some of those sort of landscapes in Ghana, and the language that was being used of them. On the one hand, you had a version of a kind of Afrofuturism, of a kind of sort of projection of a new kind of transnational globalized subjectivity, but sort of the language of archaeology. Or of archiving and of hacking into the earth and looking for kind of old patterns, old modalities that have been sort of submerged. But both of those films in their sort of different way spoke to this extended moment of like sort of temporal flux and convergence and weirdness as well. I think I want cities to be weird.
Actually, that's the one thing I thought was quite interesting about the first film, is the layering of the way in which I think he shot video, then he did film. The way in which they're layered, and you could see what's moving or not moving in time, and the buildings are the one things that don't move, right? Mm-hmm. So they're the ones that are here for 100 years, and then you could kind of see the people moving, the jumbotrons and the media moving, sometimes the signs have changed. So there's something kind of interesting about that as a kind of density, a kind of layering of temporality, I thought, in Times Square, that almost delaminates the experience in a way.
What we see now, and what I'm so fascinated by Times Square is, as an example, is that urban culture is like incredibly rapidly evolving. And what took Copenhagen maybe 40 years to evolve from this being like this cold Scandinavian place where when they first started reclaiming public space, people thought, who's going to spend time outside? This isn't Italy, it's cold and rainy here, to a place where now you see this vibrant public life that exists there today. That was a 40-year process. It took New York sort of 7. New Yorkers do everything a little bit faster and better. So it took this city only 7 years to really embrace that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we're enmeshed in such complex networks that we don't even recognize sometimes which strings are pulling where. I think there's sometimes a tendency to see things as sort of isolated, and they're actually not. They're incredibly connected, and it's something, with research I've been doing with Global Africa Lab, is to really understand, almost like within the third film, that okay, you're looking at a street trader in Johannesburg, but actually they're getting goods from all over the place. They're enmeshed in all of these kind of global networks, as much as they're trying to fight the city government to actually have a space to earn a livelihood, the local municipality. And so their local conditions, their global conditions, and we're all, they're watching the same stuff that we are. They're wearing the same sort of fashion sensibilities, and so understanding that complexity of precisely the way these technologies enmesh us in that complexity, I think, is really, really important.
I like the idea that got brought up amongst a number of you. Just this idea that public space, as it's conceived here, is often, it's either tied to consumption or it's a park. So it's something that is very docile in a way, but that there's another kind of public space that could be part of a vision of cities that is about places of resistance, and that could be recognized in the same way. I sort of feel like that would be one of the challenges of designing for cities today. Thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you for coming.